කිසිම ආරාධනාවක් අපි ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරලා නැහැ.
අපේ ආණ්ඩුව පත් කරන්න ඕන කියලා අපි ඉල්ලලා තිබුණා.
ඉල්ලන දේ සියල්ල කවදාවත් දීලත් නැහැ. නිකම්ම කාරුත් ඇවිල්ලත් නැහැ.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News on MTV Sports, live from the News First studios in Colombo. I'm Nadim Majid.
And I'm Punchani Abhidasinghal. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
Making headlines tonight, Minister Rauf Hakim says his party will make the decision regarding the Eastern Provincial Council during the weekend. An individual who sustained injuries in a clash between two groups of UNPers in Mihimtale has died. A crisis situation occurs regarding the issuing of T20 accreditation in an apartment complex.
Starting off with local news, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs Robert Blake met the TNA Parliamentary Group leader R. Sambandhan today.
We discussed a whole gamut of issues from the implementation of the resolution adopted by the Human Rights Council in Geneva to the action plan formulated by the government and the steps being taken by the government in regard to the implementation of that action plan, the heavy military presence and the militarization that continues in the particularly the northern province, the question of the bilateral talks between the government and the TNA, the question of the Parliamentary Select Committee, the question of a political solution. We discussed a question of accountability. We had a very good meeting. It was a very free and frank meeting, and we are happy with the meeting.
Meanwhile, Robert Blake also met the Minister of External Affairs, Professor G.L. Pearis, today. The meeting took place at the Ministry of External Affairs. Incoming U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Michelle Sisson, was also present at the meeting. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, Robert Blake, who is on a two-day official visit to Sri Lanka, discussed the strengthening of bilateral ties between the two nations with the Minister of External Affairs. During his stay, the senior U.S. diplomat will meet with civil society representatives as well as the business community.
The Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Kamalesh Sharma, says that he was happy to witness with his own eyes the people of the North and East living happily. He made this statement when he met President Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday.
The meeting between the President and the Commonwealth Secretary General took place at Temple Trees. According to the Presidential Media Unit, the duo had extensively discussed the Commonwealth sessions that are scheduled to take place in Sri Lanka next year.
Who will establish power in the East? This is the subject of discussion gripping the local political arena at present. Which political force will establish an administration in the East? The answer will depend on the alliances the parties form.
The UPFA secured the most number of seats in the Eastern Province at the 2012 Provincial Council poll, which was held recently. Be that as it may, it was the opposition parties that polled the most amount of votes, in fact more than double what the UPFA polled. If the opposition political parties, led by the ITAC, which secured 11 seats in the province, form an alliance, they have the ability to form an administration. The UPFA and the NFF combined have 15 seats together. For an ITAC-led coalition to come up with a majority, the party should team up with the SLMC and the UNP. This, however, depends on the decisions of the SLMC and the UNP whether they are prepared to enter into an alliance. On the 11th of this month, the General Secretary of the UPFA, Minister Susil Premajayantha, wrote to the Governor of the Eastern Province expressing the party's intention of forming an administration. Governor of the Eastern Province, Admiral Mohan Vijayawickrama, speaking to News First, said that the ITAC and the UNP have also expressed their willingness to form an administration. The ITAC recently invited the SLMC to join hands with it to form an administration and even went to the extent of promising the chief ministerial post to the party. When speaking of the position of Chief Minister, we are prepared to give the first term of the 5-year tenure of Chief Minister to a Muslim candidate and the second term to one of our representatives. This was the reaction of the SLMC.
දැනට අපි තාම තීරණයකට එළඹිලා නැහැ කියන එක කිව්වේ.
We have not reached a decision as yet. We have not refused any invitations as well. If all three forces can get together to form an alliance, I believe that it will help bridge the divide between the people. We hope to reach an agreement over the weekend.
මේ සතියාන්තය තුල අපි තීරණයකට එළඹිය යුතුයි කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, discussions are also underway between the UNP and the ITAC to form an alliance.
I spoke to Mr. Ranil Vikram Singh on the phone. I am aware that the UNP have written to the governor, informing the governor that they will support our position. But when I spoke to Mr. Rauf Hakim and discussed the matter with him, he did not tell us that he cannot support us. Up to now, the Muslim Congress has not sent any such communication to us. We have every right to expect that the Muslim Congress will support an opposition coalition, because that is what the Muslim people who supported the Muslim Congress in the Eastern Province want the Muslim Congress to do.
While the ITAC and the UNP, which have a total of 15 seats together, are preparing to form an administration, the UPFA is also preparing to form an administration with the NFF, as they too possess a total of 15 seats.
විශේෂයෙන් මේ අයිතියක් තියෙනවා පක්ෂයක් හැටියට වැඩියෙන්ම ආසන ගානක් ගත්ත.
As the party with the most number of seats, they have a right. The government also possess this right to establish an administration in the Eastern Province. There is no doubt we will definitely form an administration in the Eastern Province. Who it will be formed with and in what background are separate matters. There will be negotiations, that is usual. We have never given everything that they demand, and no one has come without anything either.
ඉල්ලන දේ සියල්ල කවදාවත් දීලත් නැහැ. නිකම්ම කාරුත් ඇවිල්ලත් නැහැ.
5 of the 11 members elected on the TNA ticket have been approached by persons on behalf of the government. They have offered large sums of money to these members. They have offered them vehicles. They have offered them houses in Colombo. They have offered them several contracts and other inducements to get them to cross over to the government and help the government, help the formation of the provincial government by the ruling party.
The decision of the SLMC will be the decisive factor. Who will they align with?
We should take this decision respecting the people's mandate. We should take this decision respecting the people's mandate.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා මුස්ලිම් කොංග්‍රස් එකේ නායකතුමාට
Today being the 12th, the SLMC leader has been unable to decide which path he will take. We campaigned in the Eastern Province against the government. In a situation such as this, it is not ethical for the leader of the SLMC to join ranks with the government. If he does so, it is a traitorous act to all the Muslims as well as the Tamil-speaking population. Do not betray us. They have received a lower number of votes than the last time. Therefore, we should join hands with the TNA and not with the government. The SLMC leader should take the right decision based on the people's mandate and respect the aspirations of the Muslim as well as the Tamil-speaking people.
මුස්ලිම් ජනතාවගේ දෙමළ කතා කරන ජනතාවගේ මතයත් එක්ක යන්න ඕනේ කියලා තමයි අපි පැහැදිලි ලෙස කියන්නේ.
United National Party parliamentarian Karu Jayasuriya says that the government is making subtle attempts to grab power in the Eastern Provincial Council. He made this observation during a media briefing in Colombo today.
Due to the election results, no party will be able to govern on its own, which means the mandate expected by the government was not received. We saw in the newspapers that the government is attempting to get the councillors on their side by threatening them, just as they did in order to pass the 18th Amendment. Politically, we condemn this action. We hope such acts will not take place because it will boomerang on the government one day.
The consideration of two petitions filed by former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca in the Court of Appeal was postponed today as the presiding judges were overseas. One petition was filed by former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca challenging the annulment of his parliamentary seat. The consideration of this petition was postponed to the 8th of October, while the other petition on the cancellation of his rank by the court-martial was postponed to the 28th of January 2013. Recently, the son of a minister of this country, who is noted for his indecent behavior, assaulted an army major and acted in a shameful manner yet again. When I was the army commander, I never allowed corrupt politicians or their supporters to lay a hand on a single soldier. Now an inquiry is being conducted by the army against the major who was assaulted. What will happen is that the thug will be released and the army official who was assaulted by the thug will be punished. This is the situation in the country today. Meanwhile, Sarath Fonseca also expressed his views on the media reports about his party. I do not need to issue statements about various news articles published in the papers. Parliamentarian Tiran Alas continues to work with me. He acts as my secretary. If he resigned from that post, it is the Elections Commissioner who should be informed first. Those who have doubts can contact the Elections Commissioner.
The chairman of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee, Sir Alan Hasselhurst, delivered the Lakshman Kadragama Memorial Lecture yesterday.
The Lakshman Kadragama Memorial Lecture 2012 was held at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute in Colombo yesterday. A number of distinguished guests, including members of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, were present at the occasion.
The Commonwealth is a voluntary association of sovereign states. Each country is legitimately proud of its own culture, its historical traditions, its societal structures, and the manner in which that society has evolved. It is therefore neither possible nor acceptable for a country or a group of countries, maybe through the best of motives, to prescribe for others what they think should be done. Judgmental postures are the implacable enemy of the Commonwealth.
CPA's presence here in conference is testimony to our belief in your intent to embed further our Commonwealth values into your constitution as your settlement progresses. However, what will convince Sri Lanka's friends is the government's continuing determination to address in a transparent way outstanding post-conflict issues. In addition, its willingness to demonstrate at home and abroad a clear time frame that peace will be accompanied by equality of treatment for all the peoples of this country. It would be singularly unfortunate if the international community was to lose faith in the will and ability of the Sri Lankan government to resolve peacefully and collectively its domestic challenges.